It's What Incredible Man. And yes, I'm back at it again. And I just finished 911 Season 3, Episode 5. And I'm going to be real. This episode was very, very emotional, man. There was a lot of moments where it was just so heartbreaking. And it was hard to grasp how this episode was going to go. Normally, I kind of have like a well laid out thought pattern in my head of how it's going to play out. But this episode threw me for a complete loop. And it was so heavy, man. It was so heavy. Starting this episode, man, it was a good episode. It was a great episode, and I love how the ending of the episode resolved everything that we had in questions from the whole from the beginning of the episode, like all the way through. So I love that we resolved everything by the end. But starting this episode, it was just there was no way I knew what was going to happen or how it was going to go. But I'm glad that we got the resolution that we got. So let's get right into this episode, man. First off, we dealt with the fact of Buck's mistake, man. We knew from last week that it was going to be a mistake. We knew that it was the wrong thing to do. And he done it anyway. And he even told this slimy lawyer everything personal about the house. Well, about 118. He told him everything. And like when you tell him that, and even the lawyer made a statement to Buck, that's not how lawyer confidentiality works. Lawyer-client confidentiality works. That's not the way that you don't understand the way it works. And everything that he told him, he used in his case to present to the city about Company 118 and everything. Stuff that some of the people didn't even know, because Eddie and Chimney didn't even know that they found Bobby passed out drunk one day. They didn't know this. And that was something that Bobby kind of wanted to keep hidden, not because to just hide it, but it was just one of those momentary lapses, and it wasn't something that needed to be told. It was so heavy, man. Then we find out he even told him about Eddie's ex-wife dying, and they used that in the case. Chimney's accident where he got stabbed, in his actual accident where he had the rebar through his brain. Chimney gets like life-threatening injuries, and he comes back totally fine. But they mentioned all of that, even the fact, and this was like something I didn't even know. Like I'd probably have to go back and watch season 1, but even the part of the blood medication, like the blood thinners. They mentioned the part Hen working for the pharmaceutical reps when she done that. She's been a firefighter for a minute now, and she hasn't been a pharmaceutical rep in a minute. And they even brought that back up about how she was selling the blood coagulant. Everything that they told him in confidence and shared with Buck, he told this lawyer, and he used it against them in this case, man. And at the end, when it was all said and done, and Buck was hurt that the lawyer used it, he was upset. But by that time, the damage had been done, Buck. You had already hurt these people's feelings. And one of the few moments of this episode that I really enjoyed and loved was that Eddie mentioned, even during the case, that and after the case, that him and Buck are friends. They're best friends, and he can't even talk to Buck about something he's going through or anything right now because of this stupid lawsuit. So then at the end, when like they're getting on the elevator and they're all leaving, they're all pissed at Buck. I mean, and they have every right to be, and I'm on their side with this. And Chimney closes the elevator as Buck's walking up, and it was a serious moment, but I found it so funny because like at that moment I was in their feelings and I was in their shoes, and I was like, I agree with them 100% the way that they treated Buck. Then we get to a super serious moment. I'm going to mention something else, like the cases that we had and everything later. I want to talk about the stuff with the company first. Then we have Athena's ex-husband I won't say Michael, and the kids, they're going to visit his parents, and they're having a nice trip. And they are on their way back, and her brother and oh, I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, her brother's asleep, and the kids are, and the daughter's having a nice time, having a chat with her father, talking about everything. And they get pulled over by the police. And the moment that they got pulled, like when I heard the sirens, I knew exactly what it was going to be. I knew that this is where they were going with this episode. And normally I have no problem with it, but like the way that they done it this episode, I was pissed at first. But like the more it progressed with this whole particular part, I was super satisfied when the ending came, because they pulled them over and everything, and what they done was wrong. 100% they were wrong. But then when they get back to the house and they tell Athena what happened, she's not picking sides. She's saying that the officers may have actually really been scared, because at that point she was a mother and she was an ex-wife, but she's still a cop. So she kind of has to see both sides of the spectrum. And I love that they really emphasized on that, and instead of just having it just be a whole situation. And his daughter recorded the whole thing, but her mother told her not to post that, not because it would draw attention to the whole case itself, but because it would draw attention to Harry and her. And she didn't want that for them, with their face plastered and news reporters bugging them constantly. But I understand where Athena's coming from, because she's a cop and she's a mother, and both sides really affect her. And at that moment when it happened, she was like really torn. But the next day when she went to work, she was pissed, man. She was super pissed, and she was on it. She was like, look at this list of reports that he has that constantly that he's done. And her commander was like, well, he's probably going to I'm going to recommend suspension without pay, but more than likely they're probably going to get a slap on the wrist. But that was not it for Athena. She went there, and I won't say like the next day, next night or whatever, she was stalking him, and she found him leaving a watering hole, aka a bar, and he was a little tipsy, like he was good enough to drive, but like he wasn't like where he could get a DUI or anything. But she pulled him over. She pulled him over and made him go through the whole ordeal, and was like, it's not fun, is it? It's not fun being embarrassed, or it was so good. And I love the way that she got him. I felt like that was justice, man. And I was super pleased with the way that they handled that, and even the way that they handled it with Michael and throughout everything else, where he broke it down and he actually had to tell Harry that you're not different, but they will see you differently, because they're gonna feel like you're a threat. And well, Harry was like, well, why would they feel like I'm a threat? They have the gun. Aren't they supposed to serve and protect us? And that's true, but at the same time, I haven't had that happen to me. I really haven't. I live in a really small town, and I haven't had anything like that happen to me. If it happened to me, I could probably weigh in on it a little more, but it hasn't happened to me, and I'm very thankful that it hasn't. So I can't really put too much introspect on that particular point, because it hasn't happened to me. But I love the way that Michael broke it down to Harry and explained it to him, and I even love the connection between him and Bobby. I love the way that him and Bobby handled that, and he was like, and Bobby was like, well, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, and I can't even think to imagine of how you go. And he was like, I'm glad that you don't have to go through that. And he was crying. Dude, this episode was very emotional, man. It was so emotional. And I loved all of that. Then we get to the part where we see Eddie dropping off Christopher at a birthday party / sleepover that's going to take place. Well, they were at the party place, and then they're going to go have a sleepover. And this rude dude comes up and tells Eddie to move his truck. Oh, you're not handicapped. Why are you parking in a handicapped spot? Dude, my son has CP. I just dropped him off. That's why I'm in the handy. Sure, your son has CP. And and this dude was if he was like a legit crippled person, or even if he wasn't, if he had been at least a little respectful about it, I might have been on his side. But I wasn't on his side from moment one, because he was rude about every aspect of it. And come to find out, this dude had knee surgery 3 years ago, and he's milking it, trying to get special privilege. So I definitely feel no reason to feel sorry for him. And I find it funny that Eddie beat him up, but I love the fact that 911 showed it. I mean, they didn't show it. They just let it be known that Eddie punched him, because at the end of the day, he's a disabled person, and it's not okay to hit disabled people. And I love the fact that they didn't show it, but they let us believe and know that he did hit him, and that's why he was in jail and locked out. And Ronda Rousey bailed him out, aka Bosco. And I'm loving their relationship. I said it in my last review, man. Like, if they get together, I mean, I don't need it to happen, but if it happened, I'd be okay with it. I mean, I'm really liking their chemistry. What else happened? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, then we had Buck talking to the lawyer, and he was like, he's willing to drop it. I mean, he's not willing to drop it, but he didn't want to go about it that way. And then the lawyer showed him that this is how much they're willing to pay him. And he was like, well, I don't want money. I want my job back. And he was like, well, dude, you may not get your job back. This may be the best thing for you. And that's what me and someone else was talking about last week's episode. You went into this without thinking, because now there's a possibility that you couldn't get your job back. So you didn't really think about this all the way through, did you? Then we have, what else did we have? Oh, we have Hen and her wife going through another real traumatic event, because all of the embryos that she had stored to ready to use can't be of use anymore, and now they really have this dilemma. But I feel like Hen could use some embryos, and they can have a child through Hen. But she's like, well, she doesn't want to give up. And it was so soul crushing, man, to see that, like, because she said that she's been going through the IVF treatments and everything, and it's been really dealing with her body. Like, there's a lot of side effects and stuff, and to find out that none of the embryos they sent in are any good anymore. So I'm really hoping they really work that out. Don't do me like that, Fox, man. You got to let these people have another child. Then we have this was my favorite scene. This was my favorite moment. And this is the Fight Club scene. We have Eddie and Bosco at the Fight Club scene, and they're going at it, and they're having a nice thing. And let's be real. She's an ex-UFC fighter. I mean, she wasn't losing. And then we get to the ending. And we see the Cap and everyone from 118 at the grocery store, shopping, doing groceries. And they run into Buck, and Buck's like, "Yeah, I got some, I got some cat laxative. I'm thinking of getting a cat." You're thinking of getting a cat that's already irregular, that needs laxatives. Dude, it was so funny, and I loved that, man. And I love the fact that Eddie kind of just got off his chest everything that was happening to him and how he felt. And we got to see Buck really kind of go through everything and tell everyone that he didn't really come out and say it, but that's why he was there, because he felt sorry, he felt bad for what he'd done. And then we have these two fools outside ramming each other, and it's so crazy. But at the very end, we have a conclusion, because Bobby has brought everyone to the rage room, and they're having a nice moment together with everyone exploding their rage, because they had some rage. Everyone in this episode had rage, so they're at the rage room to deal with their rage. But dude, let's talk about these cases that happened this episode, man. The first one, we have these two women at the rage room where everything started, and they were arguing and having a good time. They were like bashing stuff and like at the rage room doing good things. Come to find out, this chick starts telling the ex-wife of this dude what noise he's making during sex. How did you know? She didn't tell you that. So to find out her best friend was sleeping with her husband, she tried to kill this chick. The chick jumped in the barrel. She got stuck there, cut her out. So much going on. And then we get to the case that I really want to talk about, is the people that were trying to save the ducks from the duck farm, that like where this duck slaughter farm. Did you guys seriously lock yourselves up to the mechanism, and then when it happens and you couldn't get out, you were scared? You know, when you protest, you don't do that kind of protesting. That's stupid. And then the dude is so kind of wrong, man. Like, I know they are trespassing and everything, but dude, you turned this on to you almost killed people. Multiple people, all because they were trespassing on your... I get why they were there, and I understand why they were doing it. And I also understand why you were upset, but there's no reason to kill these people, man. I love the cases in 911, but like some of these people on 911, like they're like legit murderers. The stuff that they're doing, like they're like really trying to kill people, man. They're not thinking this through. And then we didn't even see Maddie this episode. Like it was nice how they done it though. Like we haven't seen her the whole episode except for that brief 911 call with the two chicks, and then at the end of the episode they show her like still stalking the domestic violence case at the end, and that's pretty much how this whole episode wrapped up. And we also had Athena talking to the younger cop and telling him to do better. Don't, even if your partner is doing something, you don't have to jump off a cliff with him. So that's how this whole episode wrapped up, and it ended with them at the rage room having a fantastic time smashing stuff. But what I'm saying is that this episode was so heavy, man. It was so emotional, and I love the resolution we got at the end. And I'm hoping Hen and her wife can eventually find and have kids, even if they don't use her wife's embryos. Hen has embryos, right? So use some of Hen's. I really want them to have a child, man, because that whole moment really, it really just soul crushed Hen's wife, man. So that's pretty much all that happened, man. But like I called it, man, I knew eventually Buck was gonna come back to the 118. I told you. So next week, Buck's a firefighter again, baby. But I did love the fact that Bobby was like, well, my house, my rules. So who's to say? You may not even be on truck. Could just be working in the... I loved it, man. I loved it. It was a wonderful episode, man. This is your boy, Dick Incredible. Don't forget to smash that like button until you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. Peace out, man. And subscribe. I mean, like, only if you really want to, man.